You've probably heard this phrase a million times. Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. It's one of the most famous lines in history. But what if I told you it's not just some clever comeback? It's actually a really profound question, aimed right at the heart of who we are. It's about figuring out where our true identity is really found. So let's dig into what that actually means for us. Because this right here is the real question Jesus was asking. It goes way beyond taxes and politics and gets right to the point. So let me just ask you, straight up, to whom, or maybe to what, do you belong? It's a question that, you'll find, pops up in more areas of our lives than we might think. You know, it reminds me of when I got my master's degree. The diploma itself had the official seal of this big university, but all my studies happened at a much smaller seminary that was just a part of it. And it kind of made me pause and think, whose name, whose seal really defines this degree? This whole question of ownership and identity, it just shows up everywhere, doesn't it? From a piece of paper to our deepest sense of who we are. Okay, so to really get this, we need to go back in time. Let's put ourselves in Jerusalem. It's the final week of Jesus' life on earth, and the air is just thick with tension. His enemies are closing in, and they have cooked up what they believe is the absolute perfect, inescapable trap. Now get this. To set the trap, two groups that absolutely hated each other decided to team up. It was a totally unholy alliance. On one side, you had the Pharisees. They were super devout religious nationalists who believed that Roman rule was a blasphemy against God. And on the other side, the Herodians. These guys were the political insiders, the elites who actually benefited from Roman power. These two groups were like oil and water, but they found one thing they could agree on. They both wanted to get rid of Jesus. So they walk up to Jesus and they start by buttering him up, saying, "Oh, teacher, we know you're a man of integrity," and all that. And then they drop the bomb. "Tell us, is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not?" And you have to understand, this wasn't just any tax. This was the poll tax, the one that every single adult had to pay, and it was a constant, painful reminder that they were a conquered people under a foreign empire. And this is what made their traps so devious. It was a perfect no-win situation. I mean, think about it. If Jesus says yes, pay the tax, the Pharisees are going to jump all over it. They'll tell the crowds he's a traitor, a Roman sympathizer. His credibility would be shot. But if he says no, don't pay the tax, well, now the Herodians have him. That's sedition. That's rebellion against Rome, a crime that gets you killed. He was completely and totally cornered. Or so they... You can just imagine the silence. Everyone's holding their breath. How is he possibly going to get out of this one? But Jesus doesn't play their game. He doesn't answer their question. Instead, he completely flips the script with one simple request. He just says, "Bring me a denarius and let me see it." Now, notice this little detail. He doesn't have a coin himself. He makes them produce one. This one move is pure genius, and it's the beginning of their whole trap unraveling. The second one of his accusers reaches into his pouch and pulls out a Roman coin. And remember, they're standing in the sacred temple courts. The trap just backfires. Boom. These supposedly holy men, who act like they despise Rome, are walking around with Caesar's money in their pockets. They're already part of the system they criticize. Jesus exposed their hypocrisy without even saying a word about it. And let's look at what they were actually holding. This was not just a piece of money. It was a tiny billboard for Roman propaganda. It had the emperor's face on it, which was a direct violation of the commandment against graven images. The words on it declared Caesar to be the son of the divine Augustus. And on the back, it called him Pontifex Maximus, the high priest. For a devout Jew, this coin was basically a pocket-sized item. So, with this blasphemous coin in his hand, Jesus asks a really simple question. Whose image is this, and whose inscription? They have to answer, Caesar's. And then comes the masterstroke. "All right then," he says, "render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And just like that, the crowd was amazed. He didn't just escape the trap, he completely dismantled it and took the conversation to a whole new level. Okay, so this is the crucial takeaway. Jesus' answer is not about splitting your life down the middle. 50% for the government, 50% for your religion. Not at all. He's making a profound statement about ownership, about identity. He's asking a much bigger question. The logic here is so simple, but it's absolutely world-changing. The coin has Caesar's image stamped on it. So, fine, it belongs to him. Give it back to him. It's part of his system. But you, every single person,
you bear a different image. You bear the image of God himself. And if the coin belongs to Caesar because it bears his image, well, then you belong to God.
The theological term for this is the imago Dei, which just means the image of God. It comes right from the first chapter of the Bible, where God says, "Let us make mankind in our image." Now, this doesn't mean we physically look like God. It means we're created to be like mirrors, reflecting his character, his love, his creativity, his justice. And this truth, this is the bedrock of all human dignity, value, and purpose. And here's the bottom line. Caesar's claim on you is limited. He might want your tax money or for you to obey the law. But God's claim on you is total. He doesn't just want something from you, he wants you, all of you, your heart, your loyalty, your entire being. So what does this actually look like in our lives? I mean, how are we supposed to be a good citizen of our country while also remembering that our ultimate citizenship is in heaven? Well, Jesus gives us a framework for living right in the middle of that tension. First, we respect earthly order. We act as responsible citizens. We pay our taxes, we obey just laws, we honor authorities. Why? Because God actually designed these structures for the good of society. But, and this is a huge but, we have to maintain our ultimate allegiance. Our primary identity is not our nationality or a political party, it's child of God. And no earthly power ever gets to demand the worship that belongs to God alone. And that means that everything we have, our time, our skills, our money, it's all ultimately on loan from God, to be used for his purposes and for his glory. And you know, there is such powerful encouragement in all this. Think about that denarius again. Even if it got dirty or dented or scratched up, it was still worth a denarius because the emperor's image was on it. It's the same with us. Your value isn't determined by your performance, your successes, or your failures. Your infinite worth is guaranteed by one thing. The image of God is inscribed on your very soul. You are his, and living like it is the greatest purpose and blessing we could ever have. So we end right where we started, with a question. That coin clearly and unmistakably reflected the image of Caesar. So as you go about your day, in your job and your family, in those quiet moments, whose image is your life revealing? Are you reflecting the temporary values of the world around you, or are you reflecting the eternal character of the God to whom you truly belong?